Hey everybody, welcome back to the GM's table, and we're doing something a little different this week. But before I start, I want to remind everybody at the beginning of the video to like, share, subscribe, everything so we can keep the channel and the community around it growing, because it's been an amazing month. If you want to help support the channel even more, check out the Patreon link below, where if you do enough, no matter who you are subscribing, you get early access to videos. And if you reach at least $5 a month, you get to vote for things that happen and where I take my parties on our stream games. But moving past that, if you notice, we don't have a nifty little dealy down here of what's going on with Savage Worlds. And so let's run Savage Worlds. Well, it's not really a full Let's Run Savage Worlds, but with us hitting 200 subscribers, I wanted to do something a little special because I was hoping to hit 200, and in about 10 minutes of me throwing it out there into the communities and saying, hey guys, I'm like 10 people away, boom, I hit it. And in then the course of another day, I hit about 20 more. So with that, I wanted to do a thank you. I had a little issues figuring out what to do. Also, if you notice, the lighting's weird. I'm not talking super loud because, as I've said in my weekly wrap-ups, my daughter was supposed to go in for surgery, and she actually didn't because she's incredibly sick and vomiting everywhere, and my wife's incredibly sick and they're sleeping, so I don't have my full rig set up, and I'm trying to be a little quiet for them, but I wanted to get a video out for all your guys' support to help me. I thought, what's an easy, quick one to do? Well, I've been sitting on a list of questions I keep seeing pop up here and there and everywhere in different Savage Worlds communities that I think are kind of just really, really common questions in Savage Worlds. Now, these aren't word for word because I see like 8 different ways to write the same question, and I really only need to answer it once. But with that, I have basically 10 common questions from Savage Worlds, and I kind of wanted to go down and kind of cover what I feel my answers are. So I think the most common starting, you know what? No. We're going to start down at number 10. We'll do a 10 to 1. So at number 10, a pretty common one, but I only see it when people are new, is what setting should I get first? They're like, I want to get into Savage Worlds. I heard about this is awesome. I heard about this setting and this setting and that setting and this. Where should I start? Honestly, where should you start? With the Savage Worlds Deluxe book. You don't need other setting books. There are great setting books out there, but just start with the Deluxe book. In the back of that book, there's like 5 adventures that aren't incredibly long, but each of them are a completely different genre using completely different setting rules. Everything comes right out of the core book, and that can give you a good sampling of what you love and what you might really, really enjoy in Savage Worlds, and it gives a good breadth of it. There's a fantasy adventure that's very negotiation driven and social contract driven. There's a sci-fi adventure that's actually a horror bent on it, so you get sci-fi and horror in one. Heck, the modern horror adventure is the adventure that kicked off my first campaign when I first started trying Savage Worlds, and that became a full, like, 40 plus session campaign. So honestly, where should you start with Savage Worlds? The core book. Simple. Get that, get the core rules down, figure out what you really like about the core rules, then go into extensive settings. Now, after that, this one, again, I don't see that common. I wish I actually saw more. But every so often I see popping up people going, how do you run Savage Worlds without minis? Like, everything's based on inches and that, and I want to do Theater of the Mind. I even see some people that go, Savage Worlds can't do Theater of the Mind play. 2 points here. First, the core book has rules to play without minis. I think it's missing a couple key notes, but right in there, they're like, how do you do it? Now, on top of that, just like any Theater of the Mind play, I say, you gotta go abstract, and you gotta kind of lean in favor of the players. If they get something creative, they're like, is this in the room? Unless you really feel it breaks the scene, go, yeah, sure. Or yeah, you can reach that in one movement, or really easily go, you can reach it, but you're gonna have to run and then figure out, all right, how much further away. Now, this is my personal trick on the how much further away or how far away are things. Yes, everything in the book is listed in inches that's supposed to be on a game table. It's not grid, but it is distance-based. Just call inches paces. Seriously. 1 inch is supposed to equal 6 feet and stuff. But if you just say 6 inches is 6 paces. How far away is he? Oh, about 5 paces. It sounds natural in how you're describing it, and it helps flow, and everybody gets the right idea, and it really helps with the adapting. Other than that, all the templates and the bursts and stuff, the book covers that. You roll for how many people were in your template. Yes, it means you can't do optimized little laying of the template to get the most people, because that's tactical grid, like minis-based combat. That's not what you're shooting for. Now, if someone goes, I want to try and get as many people as possible in it, then that's where my first suggestion of lean in favor of the players go. Let them do it. But really, to me, it's really that simple. You want to run Savage Worlds without minis? Do it. Just look up how to in the core book, and they give you most of what you need. Number 8. This one, thankfully, I've seen the questions die down. If I did this video a year ago, this would be like question 2 or 3 for common. But it's all the way down to 8 now, and it's how do I make characters feel different? Or to rephrase, people who go, oh, these characters feel the same, and there's only so much, and especially if they're condensing the skill list even more, which it looks like they might be in black, there's going to be even more of people going, characters don't feel different, every character is the same. The numbers are. But in Savage Worlds, the numbers are only half of it, especially those numbers. Trappings. Trappings. Last week, I'll do a little tag to my trappings video, because it's that important. And in there, I did a little bit of mention of you don't just have to trap powers. Trap your skills. All the flair, everything that makes your character special is trappings. Real simple. That one word answers that whole question for me. Study trappings, figure out trappings, and once it clicks on how to get those working, you'll really realize how vast the system is. Moving on, number 7. This one I'm seeing a lot more right now. It seems like there's another influx of what's a good starting adventure. Now, this is different than what setting should I start, at least to me. Because first of all, it doesn't need to be the core book. Personal favorite starting adventure is Wild Hunt, which is a test drive rules, which is modern horror / modern fantasy adventure. Great adventure. However, it's a broader answer. Any of the test drives. I've yet to see a test drive rule. Honestly, Google Savage Worlds test drive. You're going to get the Lankmar one. There's the fantasy companion one that gives you a more standard D&D dungeon crawl. And then on top of that, those are all free. You don't even need the core book. If you haven't invested in Savage Worlds at all, grab a test drive and just do it. If you have the core book, like I said, go to the back of that book. There are multiple adventures back there. Where can I find an adventure to start Savage Worlds? If you have the core book, you have a list of them. Just look at what kind of pops out to you. And yes, this might be a cop-out of, oh, you're not giving the best. Again, my personal favorite is Wild Hunt. But the thing about Savage Worlds is that there's so many genres and so many settings that there is no one answer, because it's what do you like? I'm going to give you this big list. And big, I mean, there's like 4 to 5 in the back of the core book. And I think there's 4 test drives out there. Between those, you're getting 8 to 9 adventures to pick from. Just look at those. And which one sounds the most fun to you, and do it. Seriously, that's simple. Moving on to number 6. I'm like 7. Wait, I just said 7. Number 6. What can I do to make Savage Worlds feel like Z system? Because I did X, Y, Z. This is the last one for filler. And by that, I see people that go, but Savage Worlds doesn't run like this game, or like this, or... In fact, one of my really good friends who I run games with is constantly like, I want to try and make Fate in the Savage Worlds and stuff. Personally, I am a very, very big proponent of you convert settings, not systems. Do not try to steal the mechanics and go, how can I make Savage Worlds feel more like Pathfinder? Or how can I make Savage Worlds feel more like Fate? Don't. You're fighting a losing cause. Now, there are some people who have done it, and it can be done if you really, really, really know what you're doing, and it varies tremendously based on each and every system. But again, if we're talking my answers and my personal feelings, It's not worth the hassle. If you want a game to feel like Fate, go play Fate. If you want a game to feel like Pathfinder or a 3.x D20 system based game, go play that game. There's so many games out there. You pick a system for how the game feels. And we're really lucky with Savage Worlds that there's a lot of knobs in the system to adjust the feeling for different tones. But the mechanical feeling at the table and the ebb and flow of play, that's based in the game. Don't go in things like, well, but I want the game to feel different, so I'm just going to completely remove bennies. No, then go run a game that doesn't have it. I want to try and have I've actually seen people go, oh, I don't really like the wound system. Let's try and do hit points. No. Just no. Go run a game with hit points. Each of these is, I think this is like double, maybe triply so for Savage Worlds. The system's designed where everything's balanced on top of each other. It's actually a very elegant system in how many mechanics all kind of feed off each other in ways that until you break down and dig deep in the system, you won't realize cascading effects of change. So just really don't. When they say play the rules as written before you toy with it in this community for Savage Worlds, they mean it. Really run the game as it is. Don't come in and go, oh, but I want it to feel like my other game. No, if you really want to play that other game, then play it. However, you're also picking up new games and looking to play other things. Maybe there's a reason for that, and think about that. All right. Without going into I could kind of do a whole video on that one. Going into number 5. How can I explain a character soaking a shotgun to the face? I picked that one because I actually said that one, but or this happened to my character, he soaked it, this doesn't make sense, or this is why I dislike soaking, or how can I see a combination of people going, how can I make this work? My players are saying this doesn't make sense, and people are going, soaking doesn't work because how can this even happen? And this is also kind of a thing where people are going, where this idea of Savage Worlds is pulpy and only pulpy because of how soaking works. The thing to remember is don't narrate what happened until after all the rolls are done. That includes after soaking. I know we get really excited and we're like, oh, you hit. Great hit. Now we're going to decide where you hit him. Now let's roll damage. Oh, great damage. So we know you hit him here. And here's the damage. Well, now I want to soak. Well, you should have been like, you hit. Here's the damage. Okay, you want to soak? You soaked. Now we narrate. And you kind of have to do that because how do you soak a shotgun to the face? Is the shotgun never hit them in the face. It's not they get hit in the face with the shotgun and they just shook it off. Now, in like a supers game and stuff, you might be able to pull that off. But most of your games, no. And it's not even like you then have to go back and go, oh, it turns out it was a dud. You thought you did it and it didn't do it. That's just anticlimactic. And it feels like you went into something and then pulled out. And that's not what soaking is. Instead, it's supposed to be, oh, you're aware of just how close this was to killing you because we all saw the damage you avoided. That's how close this was to killing you, and you miraculously dodged it before the trigger was ever pulled. You never took the damage. Now, what if you don't soak all of it? Because this is another thing I see. I've seen this answered a few times of, well, it just didn't happen. But what if 1 or 2 wounds happened and it was like 5 wounds? Grazing blow. What could have been your head was instead your shoulder. You dodged it, but your shoulder wasn't so lucky. Things like that. You really just have to kind of restrain yourself a little bit in the moment, especially with those really great rolls, and not narrate what actually happens in the story till the dice are done. Because with the Benny mechanic, the dice can change. Alright, so moving on. This one I've covered a little bit when I did a Benny video, but this, even in I have little notes for the answer. It's it depends. When should I give out bennies? I see this one given out. How do I handle bennies? Am I giving out enough bennies? Honestly, the answer to this is there isn't an answer. There is no unified answer for how many bennies is the right amount of bennies. How many bennies is too much bennies? How many bennies isn't enough bennies? There isn't a right answer because it's going to change with every single table and every single group. And not just that, but then the genres you're playing. I will say, rule of thumb, the more action-packed you want a game to be, the more liberal you want to be with bennies. The more tense you want the game to be, like a horror game, or something where survival is harder, the less bennies you want to give out. I do Joker's Wild because it just lets the game feed bennies out, but this is also where hindrances are supposed to happen. And I've had issues with some players who get hindrances and then don't try to feed off of them because they know I lean on Joker's Wild instead of the hindrances. Bennies should really only come out when they're needed. I run a fast and loose beer and pretzels kind of game more often than not, especially with Savage World. So I do things like, if you made me laugh truly really hard, if you made a reference, I got the reference, but man, I didn't even see that reference coming, you kind of blindsided me with humor, I'll give you a Benny. If you make the game actively more entertaining, I'll give you a Benny. Bennies are also, how many bennies do I give out? It depends. Are you trying to coax players into doing things they aren't normally doing? Are you trying to get them more used to taking risks? Are you trying to get them more used to role-playing? Anytime you're trying to, with lack of a better word, train your players into acting a new way at the table and help them expand, more bennies should be coming out, because they're your Scooby snacks. The bennies are how you're rewarding players for what you're going to kind of deem as good behavior. So there is just, you got to get real comfortable with the fact that there is no right amount of bennies in Savage Worlds. There is no magic number. And looking for it is kind of like fruitless. It's not going to get you anywhere. All right. Next, number 3. This is one, it actually kind of infuriates me a little bit of, should I raise toughness to make my fights last longer? There's a twofold to this. First of all, if you just raise toughness because you think your fights aren't lasting enough, you really need to look at the system, because yes, you're going to stretch out your fights, but you're also going to make your fights way more boring, because higher toughness just means they won't get hurt at all. This isn't this situation of, yes, in D20 base games there's hit points, and as they're taking damage, well, they're not getting wound penalties, nothing's shifting. No. The mechanical shift isn't as heavy as you think. However, hit points have a psychological shift. The players know resources on the enemy are dwindling. They know they're making an impact. The toughness and wound system, by raising toughness, yes, it makes it harder to get those wounds. However, when they're not getting those wounds, they're not nickel and diming the creature to victory. They're getting nowhere. They're stalled out. They're kind of going to start feeling like they suck. It's going to start getting frustrating. I actually made this mistake. I didn't even up the toughness. I threw a sloth creature, which is just like a swamp thing, kind of vine creature, my ETU game out at the party in one adventure. And it's because I randomly generated on the adventure table. I'm like, oh, that's what the monster's going to be. And I didn't think about how tough those things actually were. And that fight took like 25 minutes. In Savage Worlds, that is a long fight. Which brings us to part number 2. We were going, I really want my fights to last longer. Savage Worlds is designed for fast, furious fun. It is by design fast. That includes combat resolution. Savage Worlds doesn't want fights to take forever. They want you to get a fight done so you can do some more things in the game and maybe even get in another fight later you wouldn't have had time for. You don't need long fights, just have more fights. Or if you really want to stretch a fight out, have more people in the fights. Not one big boss monster. Maybe like 10 minions with him. I tend to do 2 extras per player character. And 1 to 3 wild cards depending on like situations. Typically it's 1 wild card and 2 extras per player character. Or a wild card per player character mixed in with 1 to 2 extras per player character that isn't getting a wild card on them. There's no pure math to it. There's things for encounters, but really it's there to make you feel like you're balancing it. Savage Worlds doesn't do that. A fight you think could be done real quick, the dice could turn sideways, especially when you add soaking, and it could take 20 minutes. But a fight you plan on taking an hour could be done in 2 rounds, even 1 round. You need to be okay with that in this game, because that's a feature, not a bug. That is by design. If you want your villains to last a long time, keep them out of combat. The second you can get shot in the head, you can die as fast as a bullet can enter your brain. Because that's what getting shot in the head does. Okay? That's the whole point of combat. So hopefully that kind of helps. Don't just bump up toughness for the sake of it. Be very, very careful. Now, 2 points of toughness bump actually is kind of fine as long as they're not already undead or a construct or something, because literally you're just making them undead or a construct. Just be aware, it's kind of arbitrarily stretching it out. It's not really giving them more satisfaction. It's a longer fight, but it's not a more satisfying fight. And the satisfying part of the fight is what you really want to aim for. Moving on, number 2. Questions, heavy armor. Honestly, this is typically mega damage from Savage Rifts people a lot right now, but heavy armor is kind of brilliant because the math never changes. Like, I see a lot of people go, yeah, but what's special about heavy armor, or what's special about mega damage armor? And I get it, especially if you're coming from Palladium. I've done some Palladium stuff. I've played the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles game a decent bit. I've dipped into Rifts. I didn't really like original Rifts mechanics. And yes, mega damage armor was so high. Like, basically a couple points of mega damage armor would just obliterate someone who wasn't. And Savage Worlds doesn't do that. Mega damage, heavy damage affects normal people the exact same as it affects heavily armored people. The difference just being how high their toughness is, how much damage they can just soak. The main and big difference is normal damage doesn't affect heavy armored targets at all. And this is also really important, because this is where you need to decide if something should be heavy armored. The kind of rule of thumb in Savage Worlds is it a tank or tank equivalent? Then it's heavy armor. If it's not, then it isn't. Heavy armor, if you're going in going, well, I don't like heavy armored because I want this to be heavily armored, but I want pistols to be able to hurt him, or like a rifle to be able to hurt him. No, you don't want it to be heavy armor. If you want normal firearms to be able to hurt something, you don't want it to be heavy armor. Heavy armor is literally saying, I don't want pistols to be able to hurt this. That's its entire point, is so that a random 9mm doesn't kill this thing, because it's impossible for that to ever happen. Now, at the same time, anytime people go, oh, but there was this one rifle that could take out a tank. Rifles can take out tanks. No, there was a rifle that was designed to take out a tank. That means that rifle dealt heavy damage. Okay? That's the main thing. If you want to go in fringe cases like, oh, this, and this item, we're able to do it. So how do we balance where we don't want all the others to do it, but those ones still can? Those ones then deal heavy damage. It's really, really simple. I think a lot of people are just kind of overthinking it, because a lot of people come in from way more complicated systems, especially when dealing with these kind of ideas, where it's just, no, like, if it's just a couple rifles that could do it, then they are heavy weapons. Well, but then what if those rifles were to shoot a guy? It would deal normal damage, because heavy damage doesn't affect non-heavy armored targets any differently than if it were normal damage. And that's actually kind of really, really important. It's also worth knowing, I might be wrong on this, but I'm 99% sure AP, Armor Pen, doesn't care about heavy weapons. So if you have a non-heavy weapon that has enough Armor Pen to bypass all of the heavy armor, you've ignored all the heavy armor. There's also the importance, if you're talking about mechs and power armor and stuff, that's what cold shots are for. Well, but I want a pistol to be able to hurt him, but only like if he hits in the joints or something. Do a vital shot. A vital shot is kind of perfect for that. -4 to hit, +4 damage. It's the same as a headshot. You can really easily say -4 to hit counts as a heavy weapon. Done. Just done. Real simple. Just be like, chink in the armor or something. A vital shot counts as a heavy weapon instead of the +4 damage. which means it can still hurt, but doesn't ignore all the armor because you're essentially sacrificing 4 damage, which is a wound. So it really can balance itself out. Now, the final, biggest, most common question, this is another XYZ question, is can X be savaged? And it can be anything here. I lump this into one. Can Firefly be savaged? Can Star Wars be savaged? Can Ghostbusters be savaged? All of those are fan-made creations that a couple minutes of Googling you'll find really good products of. Many of them multiples, though do look at Ghostbusters. The Savage Ghostbusters rules are kind of really cool. Anything can be savaged into Savage Worlds. Just understand it's going to feel like Savage Worlds. Resolution's going to be fast. There's going to be a lot of fluid to the story. Things will go boom, 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 boom. It's a fast-paced story. You can drag it out, but expect to get a lot done in an adventure. And expect there to be definitive like heroes and villains and everybody else. There will be stars of the show. If you think your answer to the game is, well, we're just going to make everyone wild cards, you're kind of missing the point of Savage Worlds. There's supposed to be wild cards and extras. You're supposed to be able to mow down lesser people. And the players, as well as the big villains, are these stars who are the wild card. They're the ones who just are the movers and shakers of the world. Understand that that's going to happen. And no matter what genre or setting you bring in, that's going to be an aspect of it. And you'll really be fine. In fact, I'm thinking of starting a new show once schedules go and I can get more recording of Savage It, where I will literally draw randomly from a hat or a bowl or something, a genre, a topic, a movie, a book, and then live. I might stream it, so it might be live. But on camera with everybody, I will then go and figure out the minimum amount of books to make a Savage version of that. But that's my pseudo top 10 Savage Worlds questions. I hope it was good. Thanks everybody who helped push us up to 200. Let's keep it growing. Try and hit 300, 400, 500. I'd love to hit 1,000, where YouTube now actually considers a channel a real channel. That'd be kind of cool, but I know that's a long ways off. Anyways, thanks everybody, and I will catch you next time. Bye. If you like that video, check out another video over here. Whatever it is, it's probably pretty good. Don't forget to like, share so other people can find the channel, and subscribe right up there. YouTube now won't let me put a link to the Patreon, but there is a link down in the description below. So if you want to help support the channel, check that out, and I will catch you guys next time.